Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2022 Hyundai Kona N. So this is part of the first generation that was produced between 2017 and 2023, with the second generation being produced later in 2023. And yeah, this is a subcompact crossover, although they do somewhat bill it as an SUV, but outside of a slight high ground clearance, with it only being front wheel drive, I would not consider this an SUV. But there's nothing wrong with a crossover, because you do get the added benefit of a slightly higher ride height, but you also do get a decent amount of space, considering the size of the car. So yeah, with this being the N version, it is the performance orientated version of the car. So additional extras that we get with this car that you wouldn't get with the more standard car is a front lip spoiler, a rear wing and side skirts that all help to improve downforce and stability, especially at high speeds. It also has a twin exhaust system, which has a variable valve system going on it as well, so it's quiet when you want it to be, but then it's nice and sporty and noisy when you want it to be as well. It's also got side bolsters for the front seats to improve, stability for the driver and the passenger, as well as red N brake calipers, as you can see on there, and several N driving modes, one of which increases the power briefly by about 10 horsepower. You've also got an 8-speed double clutch gearbox on this as well, so it's got lightning fast gears, certainly more so than the Veloster N, which we also have on this game, which only has a 6-speed manual. But yeah, still, nice interior on this, especially for what is obviously a mass-produced kind of car. This is easily one of Hyundai's best-selling vehicles, so yeah, but it's still got a really rather high-quality feel going for it. Not just reliant on the screen as well, you've got a nice series of buttons there. Not sure whether or not that is the same for the newer version, but for this version there is plenty of touchy-feely buttons, which is always nice. And then you've got a decent amount of legroom at the back, but not quite that much, to be honest. I think the Veloster N has a little bit more in terms of rear end space, but you do get a lot of boot space as a compromise for the general lack of rear legroom. So yeah, much more boot space there than you would get in the Veloster. And yeah, with this car you don't have to also deal with the somewhat gimmicky 3-door design of the Veloster either. And there's a twin exhaust. It's also got a little bit of a rear diffuser there on the go. So yeah, in terms of looking like a performance car, it's certainly looking the part, despite obviously being part of a vehicle segment that is typically not known for being sporty. There's not many sporty crossovers that quite frankly work. But still, it's also got plenty of punch under the bonnet, as well as it's got a 2-litre inline-4 turbocharged engine, producing 276 horsepower and 284 pounds-feet of torque. So that is, yeah, 1 horsepower more than the Veloster N, and it's 24 extra pounds-feet of torque as well on top of that. But like I said, if you're in the certain driving mode, you will get an extra 10 horsepower out of that for brief periods. But it's the 8-speed double clutch that actually makes this slightly faster than the Veloster N, because it's just so quick at changing gears that it can do it far quicker than a normal driver or a normal manual gearbox could do it in. So yeah, overall I like the look of this car, and yeah, I'm not particularly a fan of crossovers, but if you're going to do one, at least make it look good and drive well as well. But to see how well it drives, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip, so let's see what this car can do before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll get it around the track. So being front wheel drive, it's not got the best launch in the world. You can feel the car squirreling off the line just to get traction. But as soon as we start to get up to some speed, the good amount of torque and the 8-speed gearbox really does help fly in terms of speed. So what can we do before we hit the speed camera? 120 miles an hour. That is pretty damn good for a sub 300 horsepower, 3,340 pound car, quite frankly. Now in terms of weight, that is 234 pounds more than the Veloster, which I'm comparing to because that's another sporty car that has a decent amount of practicality, and at the end of the day this car does share the same engine as that vehicle, despite having slightly more in torque and horsepower. But yeah, this definitely does feel quicker in terms of straight line performance, not just because of the extra power. I know it's only 1 extra horsepower, but it is 1 extra regardless, but also because of the extra torque and that 8-speed gearbox, which does feel quicker than a 6-speed manual that is in the Veloster. But still, let's see what the stats are like first on this car. So we're in high-end B class. and they are the stats. So yeah, they're all pretty good, to be honest. The braking is on the slightly lower side of things, but it still does brake pretty well. But the launch, acceleration, handling and speed are all fairly good. If you compare it to the Lincoln Co 05 Plus that we've already reviewed, which again is another subcompact crossover, that does have all-wheel drive, which is something extra over this, but it does weigh a lot more and it doesn't have as much power or torque as this. But nonetheless, let's hear what this car sounds like and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, as far as crossovers go that are, leaning into more sporty things, it's not as the best handling car. It's probably the best handling crossover, but it's not as good a handling car as the Veloster. You can certainly feel it's got that little bit of extra weight, and even though it does have the extra torque to help it along in terms of acceleration and speed, you can also feel the tyres and the chassis struggling somewhat with that extra bit of torque, which is obviously not helpful. But it's only a minor issue. Most of the time this car is a good handling vehicle, and it is a solid one to enjoy as well. And it's also pretty rapid as well. 0 to 60 is dealt with in 4.814 seconds. 0 to 100 is dealt with in 11.916 seconds, and it goes to a top speed of 161 miles an hour. Now that is not only faster than the Veloster, but it's also faster than that Lincoln Co 05 Plus that we've already reviewed. That is part of this this game's update. Now, granted, that was part of the car pack, which you have to buy, but this is part of the festival playlist for only 20 points, which you don't have to buy. So that's again kind of another advantage for this car over the Lincoln Co. But it wasn't Lincoln Co that decided whether or not you could buy the car or not. But this car is faster in a straight line than that Lincoln Co. It's better in terms of handling as well, because it's nowhere near as heavy. This is about 600 pounds less than that Lincoln Co. So although this is a fairly heavy car for a sub 300 horsepower car, it's still a lot lighter than that Lincoln Co because it's nowhere near as large, and it doesn't have the all-wheel drive system holding it down. So yeah, on the whole, I really rather like this car. It's not a car that I'd expected to be added to this game. At the end of the day, crossovers aren't particularly well liked, I feel like, in the car community. But as far as crossovers go, yeah, this is a good one, and I certainly prefer it to that what I think it was called the Nissan Duke. We had the Nismo version of that at one point in a prior Forza game. I hated that car, to be honest. But this is a lot better as far as crossovers go. It looks pretty good. It's reasonably good in terms of sound, and yeah, handling wise, although it's not as good as the hatchback that it shares its engine with, it's still a pretty good handling car overall. And yeah, by no means a slow car either in a straight line. So yeah, like I said, you can get this in the festival playlist for only 20 points. It's well worth getting. It's one of 5 cars added to the game via the festival playlist for this current series, all 5 of which are new to the Forza series. So yeah, get out there and get this car if you haven't already. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, but nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.